this episode, we travel to the realms of sword and sorcery as we talk about more forgotten 80s fantasy toys. So, stick around. Hello, fellow dorks and dorkettes, and welcome to Plastic Ghosts. My name is Rob, and in this episode we are talking about more forgotten 80s fantasy toys. Now, forgotten 80s fantasy toys is kind of where this show got its start. Even before I had a name attached to it, I did an episode of Nostalgia Syndrome where I talked about those forgotten fantasy toys. I had so much fun, just doing the research to find those toys and talking about those toys that I wanted to do it on a monthly schedule. And I came up with the name Plastic Ghosts because I feel like those forgotten toys kind of haunt our memories and haunt the abandoned toy aisles of our youth. And I thought, that sounds like a ghost to me, and they're made of plastic for the most part. We run into some plushes here and there, but plastic for the most part. And I put a name on it, and we've been sailing ever since. Now, just because I'm circling back to the fantasy topic, it doesn't mean I'm starting over and, doing the same topics I've done before. There's plenty of other topics. I just was in the mood to talk about fantasy, so that's where we're at. So, enough of that stuff. Let's get to number one on the list. We're going to kick things off with a toy line that is a lot like some of the other toy lines on this list, in that they share a heavy dose of inspiration from Masters of the Universe. Now, of course, other names get attached to toys of this nature, but I like to keep things positive and just say that they were inspired, because even though they may share a lot of similarities, they still come to the table with a, creative and imaginative take on things. Anyway, one thing that sets this toy line apart from some of the others is that it is a smaller scale than your typical Masters of the Universe inspired toy, and it's made from die-cast metal. That's pretty cool. This toy line is called Treasures of the Temple Warriors. You would be shocked to discover that there are a few toy lines at this time that use the term Temple of the in their name. Now, this is just one of them, and like I said, it stands apart from the rest because it's die-cast. I think that's really cool, and like I said, it's a smaller scale. Anyway, this came from, and see, this is where the water gets a little muddy when doing some research. It either comes from Jamesway Toys or Aglo Toys. Either way, they were released in 1985, and as you can see, a lot of inspiration was taken from Masters of the Universe. I mean, even for their small metal bodies, they are made pretty much the same way. And like I said, I find that very interesting. There were 6 in total that were released, and a couple of them, as you can see by the back of this package, took, direct inspiration from characters like He-Man and Stratos. Other than that, these are pretty imaginative. I really like what I assume are the bad guys because they are a little bit more bestial in nature, and I really dig them. I mean, this picture kind of shows that they have a wonky, posability, but I guess that's what you get with die-cast. Now, I have to admit, I never have had a die-cast action figure, and that thought just really intrigues me. I mean, I'm used to just nice plastic action figures, not a hunk of metal that could be used as a projectile or set off a metal detector. Now, I'm definitely not hating on this toy line. I think it looks really fun, and it would definitely be something I would love to find when we do our hunt. But something like this, I have no idea if there's a footprint left that these little metal barbarians and monsters have a home in the 21st century. Our next toy comes from 1983, which is that really great sweet spot for fantasy toys, because I believe Dungeons & Dragons was really making an impact due to the cartoon, the game, and the LJN toys, that a lot of people were scrambling to get fantasy, action figures and toys out on the market. Now, this is, and it's a pretty unique name, is Thor Lords. What a fun name to say, Thor Lords. Anyway, these pullback and release critters were released by Creata International. Now, like I said, these were pullback and release monsters. There were 8 in total. Some of them are just, your run-of-the-mill giant octopus, dragon, imp, while others were a little bit more inspired and totally crazy looking. Apparently these were made from a soft rubber with the, hard base with the pullback wheel functionality. And yeah, I see Dungeons & Dragons written all over these. See, what they remind me of was, I remember back in the day when I was a real little kid, going to carnivals and winning, those soft, floppy, rubber toys. And I didn't know it at the time, but they were like rust monsters and stuff from D&D. This kind of looks like the same quality, just with wheels and propulsion, which is super awesome. Now, the D&D toys released by LJN also had wind-up monsters as part of that collection. I believe these 8 would fit perfectly with those. And again, I'm really curious to see where they lie in the landscape online nowadays. I mean, with a name like Thor Lords, even though it's epic, it might be hard to nail down because the popularity of the Marvel comic book character Thor right now. And yeah, that's one of the things that I tripped on searching for any type of info I could on these toys. One thing I would like to point out before we get to our next entry is on the packaging it actually says these are motorized beasts and bad dudes. That's awesome. The Thor Lords, motorized beasts and bad dudes. This is a toy line that should still be made today just on that alone. Our next toy is one that really gets my blood pumping, because I can't find anything online about it other than some, pictures on Pinterest, a couple pictures just floating around online, but I don't know anything about it. Anyway, the toy line is called Battle of Right. I guess that's saying that they are fighting for the mighty right and not the wrongs, or they're just all right-handed people that just really hate left-handed scissors. Either way, these are some really just gonzo-looking toys, but they look really awesome. Like, look at this artwork that is on the packaging. How unique, and someone actually put a lot of care into this artwork, and it's the roster of the figures, because the back of the packaging is just blank cardboard. It doesn't have any art on the back. This was used as the checklist and the, art to sell the product. As we can see, there were 6 in total. 3 good guys, 3 bad guys. The one thing that I will definitely give points to for this toy line is, even though they have heavily inspired bodies from the Masters of the Universe toy line, the heads are a work of art. They are big, bulbous, gonzo-looking, with rooted hair, that they took inspiration from like the OG Troll dolls, because this came out before the whole troll boom of the 90s. I want to jump back and talk about the artwork on the package again real quick, because the more I look at it, the more I wonder if it's from the same artist that did the Bucky O'Hare comic book. There's just something so similar about the eyes and the art style that just makes me think of the Bucky O'Hare comic. The original written by Larry Hama. And if that's true, that is so awesome. I'm not saying it is, I'm just theorizing because of just how similar it looks. And while we're on that, let me just read off the names of the characters real quick, because Yeah, like I said, Gonzo. You have Master King, who is the lion, Fitz. The bad guy that he is fighting, Lord of Sin. I mean, that just says bad guy. The next is Spite Rabble. Another bad guy, blue with like a frog type head with blue hair. And he's fighting a dog dude that looks really awesome named Captain Bravery. I mean, how more heroic can you get? Now, down below that, we have Fighter Deathless. That's a pretty hardcore name for what I assume is maybe a squirrel? I mean, this picture makes it look like a red squirrel, has big ears like that. And he's fighting Evil Spirit. Yeah, they kind of petered out with that one. But the names are great, the artwork is great, and the figures are great just because they're so different. Like I said, their bodies are a direct inspiration from Masters of the Universe, but those heads, a work of art. Our fourth fantasy toy line is one that I believe has its origins in Europe. I'm not 100% sure, but some of the minor details I've been able to uncover online kind of point in that direction. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But they come from a toy company named Simba, which has a really cool elephant logo. And they were released sometime in the late 80s. They are called the Dino Hunters. Now, again, direct inspiration from Masters of the Universe. But the one thing that I find just really refreshing about them is their head sculpts. Because when you deal with that same body type, the head is where the story lies. Because that's the one thing where they can really shine. Now, there were 6 figures in total, and 2 of them were human Dino Hunters, and the 4 remaining ones were actually awesome humanoid dinosaur people. I'm going to grab my phone and we are going to talk about just the awesome names that these figures were given. Now, the humans have pretty generic names. They are Dino Hero and Dino Hunter. But the dinosaurs, on the other hand, first off, we have Rick Dragon. Next, we have Bad Trimbo, the Triceratops. Next, we have Ray Dominator. That's a pretty sweet looking figure. And the last one is Rexy King. I'm assuming he's probably the leader of the bad guys. He's, assuming, a T-Rex with the name Rexy King that just spells enemy leader. To me, at least. But really, I mean, they're dinosaur people. Why does that automatically make them bad guys? I mean, these dinosaur dudes, I would definitely want in my collection, and they could fight for anybody. They could be palling around with He-Man, palling around with Skeletor. I mean, be their own people. I mean, like, erupting from the center of Eternia are these dinosaur dudes. Have them ride around on battle bones? Man, you have the perfect prehistoric fighting team. Our last forgotten 80s fantasy toy is one that is I'm not going to say it, is one that is heavily inspired by Masters of the Universe. More so than any other toy on this list. And they are the Fantastic Stars, released by Wonderlandia in 1987. I really don't have much to say. Take a look at some of the pictures of these action figures, and you tell me who their doppelgangers are in Masters of the Universe. I think you won't have any trouble. Now, again, this is a toy line that I really don't have a lot of info on, but that's what makes it so exciting. Just that there are so many inspired toy lines out there that probably, warm the pegs of your local mom and pop pharmacy, or, like for me, the Woolworth department store. I guess that's the best way to say it. Growing up, I mean, they definitely weren't setting the world on fire, But these were cheap toys that, you know, people like me that had meager means could play with. I never saw any of these, you know, in the toy aisle, but I kind of wish I would have seen some of them because they're super awesome. Even these have a charm to it, and I would have still had fun, you know, with the Masters of the Universe figures I did have, incorporating these dudes into it. I say it a lot, and I apologize, but yeah, I'm really excited to see, you know, where these toys end up in our toy hunt on eBay in a few days. So please tune into that, because there's like hardly any, you know, footprints online of their existence. But I just have that sinking suspicion, and it usually proves to be true, that people just find an old toy and slap a high price tag on it just because it's a little bit older. And, you know, there's probably some dude out there that collects these and has fond memories of them, and they really get screwed because of those high price tags. And people like me, and probably some of you out there, that are just interested in adding some of these to your collection because they are unique and fun and imaginative. And yeah, that's just horrible. But anyway, Fantastic Stars, fantastically inspired. We'll just leave it at that. Anyway, that was a look at 5 forgotten 80s fantasy toys. And yeah, we took a look at a little bit of everything. Now, most of them, like I said, were inspired by Masters of the Universe, but that's not a bad thing. I mean, Masters of the Universe, when it came along, just was a unique, awesome toy property that, you know, soon spawned a cartoon and a whole empire for Mattel around it. So I ain't faulting these small toy companies that kind of jump in and, you know, ride the bandwagon, if you will, to, you know, just try to make a few extra bucks. And like I said, they usually come to the table with, you know, a little bit more of a creative, imaginative idea, because they have to set themselves apart, probably for legal reasons, but for fun reasons too. Yeah, it's all about the fun. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad and stay dorky.